Hey everybody, welcome back to Boost Your Income with Bootstrap to WordPress. This lecture is called Installing Free Icon Fonts with FontAwensome. Okay, so in this lecture, we're going to install something called FontAwensome. If you don't know what FontAwensome is, it is a font that lets you use icons. So your icons are vectors, so they're not blurry like bitmap graphics. They're actually vectors. So this is the FontAwensome website, fontawensome.io, and you can scroll through and check it out if you'd like, but we're going to only be using a couple of these icons. But basically, you can see here, they have a whole bunch of icons that you can use in your websites or your web applications, and they're fonts, so they are infinitely scalable and they'll always look sexy on your websites or your mobile applications or whatever you use them for. So to go ahead and download those, you can head to the homepage here and hit download. The version that I'm downloading is 4.2.0. And just to show you here, in your course files folder that you have downloaded a while back, in the assets here of the final static website, assets, if you go to CSS, you'll see a folder here called FontAwensome. And then there's a couple folders in there. That's what we're going to be installing. If you wanted, you could just drag this FontAwensome folder right into your CSS folder in your static website that you're building right now. But what you might want to try doing is just downloading the most recent version. Remember that I'm using 4.2.0, so if you ever come across any bugs, it's probably because you're using a more up-to-date version. So I'll leave that to you to do some bug fixes. Otherwise, if you don't want to go through that hassle, just make sure you're using 4.2.0. And I have that version, like I said, right here in my CSS folder of the course files folder. Okay, so I've downloaded that here. I'll show you. FontAwensome zip file. Go ahead and unzip that. And just for readability's sake, delete the version number. Just looks a little bit easier on your eyes. 4.2.0, you don't need that. And in your static site that you're building right now, drag that folder into your CSS folder. So FontAwensome, go ahead and drag that right in there. Cool, so now you have a few folders in here. There's a couple things we don't actually need. Less and SCSS, those are a couple CSS languages that we're not going to be using right now in this course. We're just going to be using CSS and fonts. So just go ahead and wipe those out. All right. Now we have everything we need. And we'll need to go to our code editor and create a reference to those, to that folder so that we can actually utilize our icon fonts. So here it is in our CSS folder, FontAwensome. You probably already know how to do this. Just go ahead and add a link tag here. href, whoops. And it is in your assets folder, CSS, font-awesome. And you're going to need to reference the CSS itself here. So let's see what that's called. So there's a CSS and a fonts folder. We need to make references to both of those. So we have FontAwensome CSS and min.css. Let's just use min because it will take less time to load. Font css/font-awesome.min.css. And let's put a rel attribute there for style sheet. Cool. All right, and I'm just going to put a HTML comment up here just so I can know what this is all about. FontAwensome icons. So yeah, this is all you need to do to add your reference to your FontAwensome. There is in the FontAwensome folder, you can see there's a fonts folder. So we might want to make sure that the CSS is referencing this fonts folder correctly, because that's why this is here. Our CSS is going to look for this fonts folder in order to serve up those fonts or those icons. So let's just open our FontAwensome CSS. All right, so it looks like here, the source URL, it's looking for fonts. So we're going up a directory, jumping down in the fonts, FontAwensome web font. We're here in CSS, we're jumping up a directory, and then down in the fonts. Looks like this is perfect. You don't need to change this at all. And again, right here, we're using min.css. So if you are going to make any changes, make sure that you make changes to the min CSS, or if you do it to the CSS, compile it to a minified version. And just to show you what we'll be using those the FontAwesome icon font for, right here, these little social icons, Twitter, Facebook, and Google+, these are actually icon fonts. They're not graphics. I didn't use Photoshop or download them at all. These are fonts. So if you had your screen size really, your font size really large, those would scale, and you could still see here, I'm zoomed really disgustingly far in, these things are still sharp. That's because they are fonts and not actually bitmap graphics. All right. So that's it for the icon fonts for installing FontAwesome. Don't you dare go anywhere, because in the next lecture, I'm going to show you how to add the Typekit and Google Fonts libraries to your website so you can use some sexy fonts. See you there.